Afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Webby's Sports Roundup with a bit of a difference. Got a very, very good friend of mine who I see 1 or 2 times a year, and he says he's going to be interviewed by me. This is a living legend. If you're from Yorkshire, if you're a big Barnsley fan, as you can see, I made the effort. He hasn't, but he's on his jollies and he's back home tomorrow. It is the one and only Dave Watson, international ex-goalkeeper at Barnsley. How are you, big man?
Fantastic. I'm just so pleased you've invited me on at last. I've been here 2 or 3 years.
Right.
This has been going to happen, this is not going to happen.
Right.
Anyway, we've finally made it happen.
We've got it. I'll tell you what, this is going to be a big one because we're going to do part A and part B. Part A is going to be Barnsley career up until 23 when he had a very, very bad injury. He had to stop playing football. And part B is going to be his career from 23 up until now with regards to his coaching ability on the goalkeeping side of things, which is fantastic. Right, Dave Neil Watson, you were born 50 years ago.
Yeah.
Were you actually born in Barnsley?
Born in Barnsley General, the only place to be born in Barnsley. It's the only building that everybody can see from 50 miles away.
Oh my God, Ted, this is going to be a goodness, as I tell you. Right, listen, I've got all this down here. I don't know if I'm going to read it to you the truth. Now, you're Barnsley from when till when? What was your dates?
No, yeah, but look, Barnsley born and bred. To be honest, when you start, I just wanted to play football, and there were no desired pathway to necessarily playing goal. I just wanted to play football with my mates.
Of course.
When you're 11 years of age, obviously now they start playing at 6, 7, so it's a different time. I started playing at 11 years of age, just with the guys from the local school, and played in the school team and the local village team that were called Royston Dynamos, which is the village where I'm from. There were 2 of us like playing in goal, and when it was his week to play in goal, I played outfield. And like the first year up until then, that's what happened really. I never really got serious in terms of playing in goal till I was like 13, 14.
Okay.
I was very, very fortunate. I was playing for the school team, and I used to alternate even in the school team with the other lad.
Yeah.
And this week it was my turn to play, and there were a Barnsley scout watching the school match.
How old were you then?
I was 13.
13, so a Barnsley scout come watching.
Yeah, just watching the school game.
Yeah.
Asked me to go in for a trial a couple of weeks later, if obviously my mum and dad would have been happy for that.
Yeah, sure.
And I remember going for a trial. In those days it was so different. Obviously I've been in football all my life now, and to imagine my experience of going into Barnsley, 14 years old, having a little bit of a session, and then actually joining in with the reserves. Phenomenal. Because they were goalie short, even at 14. Like the management of it now, it just couldn't ever happen because of health and safety, you know.
But did you want to play on the pitch? Were you a player first or a goalie, or was it a case of you fancied to play with your hands?
Yeah, no, look, I had a natural ability to play in goal.
Okay.
If you asked me, could I have forged a career playing outfield, I think I could have done something, but I wouldn't have aspired or got to the levels that I managed to get to playing in goal.
No,
I was
sure.
certainly better in goal. But in those days, you know, you had to be a player as well. Even though the rules were different, you were I'd have been a better goalie now because we just played outfield all the time anyway.
Yeah,
I didn't have a full-time goalie coach, even when I joined as an apprentice.
Okay.
So you were doing all the outfield sessions. So actually, I'm sure we'll come on to it when we talk about my coaching career. But,
yeah, sure.
But the whole game's evolved 360 degrees from when I started. But yeah, so the full-time goalkeeping coach were a thing that never existed.
So they all want to play, most clubs now want to play from the back. You see the goalie now, very rarely 1 in 10 will kick it out. It all depends what the time is of the state of the game, and he throws it to the right back, to the left back, and boom, boom, boom.
Yeah.
And that's what it was obviously in your time, was it?
Yeah, not as much as that, but I had the ability to be able to play.
Yeah.
Even though we didn't really do it as much, because obviously the game's evolved, hasn't it? And coaching's evolved really. But when I was a young lad, honestly, I absolutely loved my time and the coaches I had. I still keep in touch with a guy. He used to play for Sheffield United. My first ever goalie coach was a guy called Bob Widdowson, and and he, as a young kid, you need somebody who can push and develop you at that young age.
Of course.
And without his guidance at that very young age, then I wouldn't have been able to become an apprentice.
Take it on.
But then all of a sudden, at 16, when you join full time and you become an apprentice, like that's when obviously things seem to become a little bit more serious. You know, you're earning $29.50 a week on the YTS, and you think you've made it.
Was there many other goalkeepers at your age, at your school level around that time? Was the competition very fierce, or were you one of two, one of three that are available? Do you remember?
Going through my setup, as soon as I got into the Barnsley system, it's not like today where you carry two through every age group. They just carried one in my age group.
Yeah.
I were in competition with a lad called Chris for 2 or 3 years, where obviously you're not quite sure whether they're going to go him, me, or whatever. But in the end, I kind of won that battle, and they stuck with me. But just so you get more game time. Like now it's different, it's harder for the young goalies because there's 2 or 3 in every age group, and you're not getting the game time that I had. So I was fortunate in some ways that I didn't have the competition. That's not making it easier because I didn't ease off, that's not in my character or my personality.
No, for sure.
But not having that other goalie there made sure that I got all the game time over my development period.
Well, even Coventry now, we've got 3 goalies, the one obviously there, and they're in, again, they want game time, don't they?
Yeah, and that's what young goalies don't get now.
No, they don't. So, was your dad any influence on your football?
Yeah, I mean, he was a massive influence in what I did, and you only realise when you become a parent yourself as to the fetching, carrying and driving you all around what they have to do. I was lucky because as I was developing, I managed to play for South Yorkshire schools.
Okay.
So that meant playing up in Cumbria, down wherever, and you're doing all these things. But like to get in the district team were tough because I was up against Matt Clark, who played in the Premier League for Bradford. Obviously started at Rotherham, and he was an apprentice at Rotherham when I was an apprentice at Barnsley. So he was my kind of competition in the county setup,
Yeah, all those questions I got down here, you're answering them one by one. To be honest with you, can you remember what your very first game for Barnsley Football Club?
My debut for the league.
Your actually debut for the league game. Did you play for the reserves first, or were you straight in?
No, I played for the reserves, but that's what I'm saying, where young goalies miss out on the development now. So I played for the whole 2 years of my apprenticeship, always in the Northern Intermediate team, as was, and we won the league every year. We had a real good team in my...
Because there used to be, was it called the Central League, which was...
there was Central, that's more the Midlands. So I were in the Northern Intermediate League.
Okay.
So we didn't come any further south really than Sheffield. So we were from Sheffield all the way up to Newcastle, Darlington, Hartlepool, Middlesbrough, all them teams. So like we were called it was the Northern Intermediate League when I did it.
And you were always a good side there.
We won it 3 years on the spin.
3 years. Any of those players where they are now? Or were any of those big players obviously within your team then they had moved on to big things?
Yeah, a lot of them had really good careers. So in my youth team there would have been myself, there would have been Nicky Eden, who had a really long career. Andy Liddle, who was a successful striker and had a good career. Scott Jones, Chris Morgan, centre half. Chris Morgan, Big Sheffield United.
Big Sheffield United, not the prettiest of boys. Is that the word?
Not the prettiest
of boys. That's a great centre half.
Tough. He was a younger. He was just coming through in his first year when I was a third year. So
phenomenal.
But part of the team, we had a real good team. Adi Moses, centre half.
Moses,
he had obviously a real good career as well. So we were a good team and created a lot of players for Barnsley.
So for 2 years then, so who was the goalkeeper of Barnsley when you were apprentice? Can you remember?
Yeah, Clive Baker.
Clive Baker.
Yeah, he went on to play. When he left, he actually went on and pushed on again and ended up playing for a couple of years for Ipswich in the Premier League.
Gosh, okay. So when you were obviously an apprentice for 2 years in the reserves, Baker was obviously the main man then. So were you ever had opportunity of taking him out of chair or not?
Not in my time, because he moved on in my second year, and we signed a guy called Lee Butler from Aston Villa.
Okay.
So he come in to replace Clive, but both of them guys, just working with them and talking to them, really helped me along the way, especially when you're a young goalie. You've not had any of these experiences, but so I played 2 years in the youth team, but then in the second year, if you weren't playing in the reserves in the second year, you were never going to get offered a contract. So in my second year, I was fortunate enough to play, I couldn't tell you how many games, but I got a lot of experience in the reserve team. And then when you come then towards the end of them seasons, you think you start travelling with the first team, you start helping the kit man, and start doing because they can see that you're going to be ready at some point for an opportunity, which then came, I think would have been in my third year.
And I think you must have, all those years ago, you must have had respect for the coaches, the management career, and say yes sir, no sir, 3 bags full.
Oh,
sir.
yeah.
And you wouldn't go beyond the scenes. You'd have a bit of fun, but not like it is now.
No,
obviously just when you were taking
when I was an apprentice, I was petrified to go through the first team dressing room.
I bet you were.
It were a tough environment to be in, and you had to become that way, because if you didn't make yourself that way, you were never going to survive in that environment.
No, for sure.
But honestly, some phenomenal players I was fortunate enough to be involved with, and like if you look back at your time now, knowing these older pros and just the little snippets of information that they helped you through. But yeah, I love.
Well, that's helped you with your coaching career, which we'll talk obviously in part B of today. But so when you got into the first team, which was in 1990.
It would have been 1997.
Was it that early?
No, 92. I would probably.
92. Yeah, gotcha. That's right. Yeah, I think I've got that down actually. 92 to 2000.
Yeah, I'm not doing too bad there.
So, no, you did well. You did spot on. That 2 looked like a 7.
Well, I remember.
First game. Come on.
Yeah, first game. The ground doesn't even exist now, so it's been flattened for something, whatever.
Yeah.
So my debut were at the baseball ground, Derby. Night game, midweek game.
Not Gates, Alan Hinton and Kevin Hector.
I can't remember their team. Gabardini were up front for them.
Gabardini, cool. Yeah, I remember him.
And the only reason I know that is
Listen, I've got to get his water. Keep going, son.
For all I remember in the game, you've played so many youth team matches, so many reserve matches.
Yeah.
And obviously it's a massive day for me and my family to play, and it finally represent the team I wanted to play for.
Phenomenal.
But the one thing I remember about him in the game is I used to be quite accurate with my kicks, but I used to roll, like they call it, dribble and drive now.
Okay.
Just flick it out of my feet and I'd ping it. And in every other game I'd ever played, I thought I'd got as much time in the world as what you want. All of a sudden I did it there, and honestly I thought he was going to take it off me, and I just managed to clear it. And it's one of them things you remember because he's obviously an experienced centre
Marco
forward.
Gabardini. Yeah,
he played.
Yeah, I remember.
And anyway, look, I absolutely loved the experience, obviously, but it wasn't a positive result. I think we got B3.
Oh, it is what it is. But right, penalties. Have any penalties saved? Have you ever saved a penalty?
Yeah, I think I didn't have a tremendous record, if truth be told. I think I saved 3 or 4 in my career. Probably a couple of the highlights in terms of the penalties. We always had a good record at Birmingham City, and obviously we'll come on to that because I spent a massive amount of my coaching career there.
I remember.
We always did well at Birmingham as a Barnsley team. I think for the 3-4 years I played at St Andrews, I never conceded a goal. Saved a penalty from Brucey in one game.
Steve Bruce?
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah.
Steve, he took a penalty. Steve Bruce.
Yeah.
Who was that for?
Birmingham. Against Barnsley, so he finished as player manager, didn't he? So
that's what I mean.
So I can't remember when it was, but again, we kind of always drew 0-0. It's really strange how you get them grounds or teams that you kind of do.
Big centre half for Man United, wasn't he?
Yeah, fantastic. And normally, let's say he were very good at penalties, so I must have got lucky that day. And I saved a big penalty at Wolves in the promotion season for us. Again, to get I think that got us a draw when Graham Taylor was manager of Wolves.
Best ground you ever played in? That question's not down. That's just where's the best ground you've ever played in?
I think because I always looked to Man United, I absolutely loved playing at Old Trafford.
Yeah.
But actually, a ground that I really liked was White Hart Lane.
Tottenham, yeah. Tottenham, White Hart Lane.
But I think if I had to pick, I think playing at Man U, because I played at Old Trafford in reserve games, and it's totally different when there's virtually nobody there.
Yeah,
then all of a sudden you're playing in a Premier League game or an FA Cup match. It's a different game. But they're the moments you live for, because that's what you aspire to and what you want. I didn't necessarily enjoy it that much when we were getting beat 7-0 in the Premier League, but
that rings a bell now. You did get it, and you were the goalie.
I was the goalie, yeah.
Oh,
but the interesting thing for that
is
we lost 7-0 in the Premier League, and then we drew them in the 4th or 5th round of the FA Cup away.
Yeah. And
we were getting better as a team. We didn't eventually stay up, but we were getting better. We get to know the league, and we drew them in the FA Cup away, and we drew 1-1 at Old Trafford, and then we beat them at home in the replay.
At Oakwell?
Yeah, we beat them in the replay.
No way. Yeah. Unbelievable. I'm just trying to think, off the top of my head, your star players all those years ago, and nothing's coming to. Why am I not?
The most famous. Well, I'm not saying the most famous player, but one you would resonate with the team that got us promoted. Well, there might be a few, but definitely Neil Redfern.
Neil Redford, yeah, midfielder.
Paul Wilkinson and Hignett up front.
Hignett, play number 10.
Yeah.
Yeah, number 10, Hignett.
Ariane Dazou, centre half.
Okay, centre half,
He went and had a long career. Nick Eden, what we spoke about.
Nick Eden, yeah, I remember him.
Darren Sheridan played in midfield. John's brother.
John, yeah.
John's brother.
Played Sheffield Wednesday boy.
Yeah.
Sean Sheridan.
His brother.
Oh, his brother. Okay, yeah.
So no, we had a real good mix of experience. Left back, we took Neil Thompson from Ipswich, and he came in and did really well for us.
Yeah.
And we just and that's what happened. So we had a real good youth team, what we've just touched on. But the manager at that time, Danny Wilson, he got a real blend of our youth team and then some experienced players. So Mel Machin gave me my debut at the baseball ground, and he didn't survive too long after that. And then Viv and Danny came in as a joint player managers, but then Viv left to go and join.
So Viv Anderson, yeah.
He left to go and join Brian Robson at Middlesbrough, and then Danny took over on his own. And from that moment, like the team galvanised, and Danny then obviously had a fantastic managerial.
Sheffield Wednesday, didn't he?
Yeah, he's managed a lot of teams.
He's done well.
Bristol City had a long time.
Yeah. Viv Anderson, the very first black player that played for England.
Yeah, and he was player manager. But when the two of those were in charge, they kind of started picking me as a regular number one, if you like.
Which that gives you the confidence, knowing they're not looking over their shoulder, thinking, "Oh, it's somebody else on." You know.
But it's interesting, isn't it? Because Lee Butler was the goalie then, and they'd signed him, and I'm not sure how much money they paid. But like, he really helped me, and he's somebody I speak to now quite a lot. And you keep that friendship, even though at that time I kind of took it. It weren't.
Did you again? Not mentioning figures, but when you obviously signed for Barnsley on professional papers, did your salary go up a lot from that first year to the 10th year? Was it a case of what sort of contracts did you have?
My first professional contract were £110.
£110 per week.
Per week. Yeah.
I always know Graham Withy, obviously, that's my pal, played for Coventry for 2 or 3 years. He was bought, and he was on £180 a week. Yeah. But that was, I'm trying to think that was 1980 something, that was. Yeah.
The money's changed beyond all recognition.
For sure, yeah, so £110 a week.
Yeah.
But still good then, thanks, wasn't it?
I weren't doing it for money.
No,
I weren't interested. Yeah, passion. It's all I'd ever wanted to do.
I do the same with this. I don't do it for me.
And I'm certainly not doing it for money.
No, that's for sure. No doubt about that whatsoever. Right, come on, let's have a look. Let's get some more questions, which I love answering. Well, you answer and what have you. When you went away, did you actually room with anybody?
Yeah, obviously, again, totally different time. At the end of my coaching career and all that. But yeah, we always roomed. When I was a younger player, you kind of got put in with anybody really.
Okay.
But then when I became more senior in it, I always roomed with Adi Moses. Which I actually quite liked, because you needed that relationship on the field as well. Getting to know him slightly better, and it helped on the field, I think.
What goalie at that time did you look up at? So when you started your career back in '92, professionally with Barnsley, you must have thought, "Oh God, he's the one I want to be."
Dave Seaman, really, in terms of like an English goalie, because he's from down the road in Rotherham, and he'd come through a good pathway to play.
He's Rotherham, gotcha, okay.
And obviously, he'd QPR, and then when he gets to move to Arsenal, you're looking up to him. But the one who probably influenced me the most, in terms of when he came to England, was Michael, because he reinvented goalkeeping.
Yeah. He was
something else. And it weren't the conventional way that we were brought up. So I spoke about my old goalie coach Bob Widdowson, but then when I became an apprentice, one day a week we had Big Joe Corrigan come across. And let me tell you, when he took his first training session, he came one Friday, nobody, wherever on that training field, I'll never forget it. So the senior goalies, they're playing for the first team the next day. I'm playing for the youth team the next day.
Okay.
But there was none of this sports science now. Don't do too much on a Friday, don't do this. We're winding down, big game tomorrow. Yeah. Honestly, all of us crawled off the field. Honestly, it was the hardest thing I've ever done.
Fantastic.
And again, it's sink or swim with it.
Well, I always remember Corrigan. He was always number 3 for England because we had Shilton and Clements. And Corrigan.
It's tough to get through them to it.
Oh, dearie me. Shilton, what's the most caps ever for as an England player? Played at Coventry as well.
But you imagine if you didn't have Shilton and Clements, so he had the record anyway.
Yeah.
But you imagine if he didn't have that competition, he might have had 150, 170 caps.
For sure, absolutely. Yeah, he was a powerhouse, wasn't he? I can see him now.
Yeah.
Massive, wasn't he? He was probably taller than the other two.
Big Joe Corrigan.
Yeah.
Oh mate, massive. And in that very first season of me being an apprentice, he still fancied he'd got a bit.
Yeah.
And if he went in the goals, and one of the lads chipped him.
Yeah.
Oh, mate. If he couldn't catch him, but if he'd have caught him, that would have been it finished.
Yeah, maybe brown bread.
But I formed a real close relationship with Joe, and I had a real lot to thank him for in them young days.
Best season?
The best season has to be the season we got the team promoted. Look,
from
90.
No, from what division to what division?
So
Div 2?
No, it would. Well, yeah, Div 2 to
Div 1.
Well, it would have been the Championship as is now to the Premier League.
To the Premier League, gotcha.
So I'd played really as a Championship goalie all the time.
Yeah.
But then to get your team, who's never been in the Premier League, to get into the Premier League, I mean, it's things that you can only dream of. But that season we got promoted, it were all about momentum. We won the first 5 games.
No.
And that start, I think we got beaten at home off QPR, but then we went on another 4 or 5 game unbeaten run. And we just got momentum. Danny managed the situation really well. The blend between the youth and the older players, and we had a real great team spirit.
What sort of crowd? Because there's a lot of competition with Barnsley, I believe. What sort of crowds were you getting there? Because they're only down to probably 12, 13, 14, 15,000.
But I think a lot of teams have that where they always think, well, we've started well, they're never gonna see it through. And we were probably 6,000-8,000, and by Christmas people are thinking, they'll drop off. But actually, because we went well over Christmas, then the fans started buying into it, and then they probably bought second half of the season tickets.
Yeah, for sure.
But then every week it were getting 10, 12, 15, and obviously by the end you're full. But
you've got to bring the kids on. That's what it's all about, bringing the youth, bringing your son, your grandson, your granddaughter. And that's what gets them, get them red shirts, then they follow your club till the end of the season.
Absolutely.
And it goes. That's what it's all about, isn't it? Sure. In one of you. Right, again, best and favourite player ever for Barnsley. When I say best, that's a hard question. Probably the best player that you've seen play for Barnsley.
Yeah, well, look, in my time there, I spoke about him already. Neil Redfern, fantastic for me, but he just trained as he played, and he was a real good leader. And the way he conducted himself on the training field, he just drove everybody forward with him. So the standards were set by him. And I think everybody needs somebody like that to be your leader. Not necessarily vocal leader, just led by example.
Yeah, of course you do. Who gave you your first game?
Mel Machin was the manager when I made my debut.
When you made your debut, Mel Machin?
And he managed the team for, I would say, 3 or 4 years, and actually the team did very well when he was manager.
Is he still alive?
Yeah, he lives down in Bournemouth, but he's knocking on now. He'll be 80s.
I suppose we all are. Listen, if you just tuned in, you're into Webby Sports Roundup here in sunny Tenerife in my manor. We're in a very good friend's house called Andrew, big blue nose, good pal of ours, and he's invited me into his own home to interview me, good pal. This is, well, I don't want to say it because it is David Watson with the middle name of Neil, ex-Barnsley goalkeeper, and what a story we've got. So we're going to have 1 or 2 more questions, then we're going to have Part B coming up a little bit later on. Right. How many managers? Did you have many managers in the 7 years?
No, not really. So, like, obviously Mel were there as manager when I was an apprentice. So I did my 2 years apprenticeship and my first year as a pro and got my debut with Mel. And then obviously Danny Wilson
did you respect him?
Yeah.
Irrespective of whether he was your first manager to give you still looked up to him and think, I'm going to do it for you. Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. When somebody gives you a debut, you know what I mean? You're never going to forget that.
No.
And then, like, results don't go the way the team won, and he's gone. And then Danny Wilson and Viv came in as joint player managers. But the nice thing for us was they brought our youth team coach up to be their assistant. So that's where the blend and that's where the cleverness really came from. Whether the club really planned it, but by bringing Eric Winstanley up to be their assistant, he was always promoting the younger players.
Gotcha.
Then they'd got the blend with the older players, and we ended up being a proper team. And obviously Viv eventually left to go to Middlesbrough with Brian, as I said. Danny took over, and the real rest of that is history. But then obviously we were in the Premier League, got relegated. Danny left to go to Sheff Wednesday, and then John Hendry became manager.
John Hendry, yeah.
Again, player manager.
Blast from the past.
So that's when he was player manager. That's when I.
You must have played against Cough, obviously my football team, because there was always Coventry Barnsley. There was a bit of rivalry. We're always down there.
I played at Highfield Road in the Premier League for sure. I think we lost 2-1 really late penalty in the game. I think. Yeah. We won the home game because it was a Monday night game on Sky, but. I better
watch that.
Yeah. It was one of my better games actually. So if you find it, stick it on.
No, do you know something? Because when I bought my first pub. And I had all the Coventry boys in, Dion Dublin and whatever, that was in 94 to 98. And I remember watching TV.
You would have definitely had that.
Yeah, 100%. And I remember, seriously,
Because Strachan were manager.
Yeah. Well, I've met Gordon Strachan, obviously, and he's rang me at my house here.
Yeah.
I interviewed him when I worked on the radio here as well. Lovely fella.
Great guy.
Yeah, lovely, obviously, top man, respect. And Dion Dublin and what have you. You had 2 honours. You had, obviously, Division 1, 96, 97. But I did read in your Wikipedia there was another honour playing for England youth or something.
Yeah, no, so it was really strange. So I'd made my debut the year we talked about the Derby game.
Yeah.
And then towards the end of that season, I was kind of becoming a regular. And that were in the March time. But yet I were in the England under-20 side.
That's right.
But we had a World Cup to go to in Australia.
That's right.
So we had to leave.
Gotcha.
So I remember played it for the first team away at Luton, drew 2 each.
Yeah.
Next day I went to Australia. So I kind of were in the team and then lost my place in the team because I'd gone to Australia to play in the World Cup for England. A fantastic experience. We were there 3 weeks. We got beat.
Glad you did that.
Yeah.
Could you have said no or not?
Not really.
No. Okay.
I mean, I think in them days, if a club would have said no, the probably FA had the power then to stop me playing for my team anyway.
Gotcha, okay.
So I think the FA had a bit more power than what they have now. But yeah, the 3 weeks in Australia, phenomenal. Played with some fantastic players.
Well, that's great. So in that youth team that you played in Australia, who could you think of?
So Unsworth, David Unsworth played.
Everton.
Yeah.
Left-footed.
Yeah. Steve Watson.
Steve Watson.
Newcastle.
Yeah.
Alan Thompson. Newcastle.
Alan Thompson. Was he left-footed?
Yeah. Nick Barmby.
Yeah.
Nicky Butt.
Leeds United. Nicky Butt, Man United. Oh, dear me.
No, we had
That's some pass. That's some blast from the past.
Yeah. Jamie Pollock played in midfield.
Yeah. So how many goals went over?
2 of us.
2. It was
the number 2 were a guy called Simon Shepherd who played at Watford and Reading.
Okay.
And I was fortunate to be number 1 in that tournament, and we got beat. Unbelievable. We played really well. Got to the semi-final.
Yeah, 3rd, weren't you? I think.
Yeah, but we got beat off Ghana. We were 2-0 down after 10 minutes in the semi-final. Got back to 2-1. Just couldn't get over the line.
Yeah.
And then we beat Australia in the 3rd place match. But it's kind of a game that didn't matter. You know what I mean? But it was nice to kind of get close.
Okay. Right. Listen, we're going to wrap up part 1, and we're going to do part B in a short while. First and foremost, there's a question that I always ask you when I do my show on a Friday. Terry number 2, he says you've got to ask this question to everybody, and I'm just going to say to you 2 words: Ronaldo or Messi, and why?
Messi.
Terry, I'm going to knock you straight out. Go on, tell him why.
He's won the lot now. He's won the lot, and I think when you've won the lot and you can do the things he did, it's magical.
I'm just do you know the reason I'm a Ronaldo fan? I know he chucks his dummy out sometimes. He did it at Man United and so forth, but he can head the ball. He can play left, right.
What's he going to play in Saudi Arabia for?
Well, you know he's gone for money, isn't he? I know, I appreciate that. But when Messi went to in MSN and whatever, nothing really happened. I know he was class, but he didn't shine out when he played for PSG when you had the front 3 and everything, and he left. I'm just a Ronaldo fan.
Well, that's nice.
Even now,
football, and that's why everybody watches you, because we've all got an opinion.
Yeah. Messi, thanks, Dave. I love you 2 bits, mate. I'll tell you. Andrew, what about you? Messi or Ronaldo, son?
I think I'm a Messi.
I've lost it again, haven't I?
You're never going to win here, are you?
No, I ain't going to win nothing. Well, listen, before you turn that off, big man. Right, listen. As I always say, if you like what you hear, you like what you see, subscribe to Webby Sports Roundup in my manner, and it is free, absolutely free. Any comments down below, anything about Barnsley Football Club, this is going to go to a lot of people. Send them the comments and I will pass them on to the big man here. If you're not on our Facebook page, Webby Sports Roundup, my pal Foggy is a massive Tottenham fan, and obviously you have to join 2-2 at Old Trafford yesterday afternoon. Give him some love and subscribe. So all I'm going to say from the big man, Dave, appreciate it.
I'm looking forward to round 2.
And round 2 is going to be it's going to be better. It really, really is. This is when he becomes a real man. This is from being an apprentice at Barnsley, from being a professional at Barnsley, and we're going to talk round 2. So from Webby Sports Roundup, from my pal Dave, and my pal Andrew and Webby, take care, and I'll see you very, very soon.